Hello, and welcome to part 2 of the Match EQ tutorial. In this tutorial I will just go through each of the parameters and explain as best I can what they do, and if there is time at the end I will try and show you a few more ways to use it. This tutorial might get a little boring at times, so I will only highlight the most important parts of it in a red frame. Okay, let's get crack-a-lackin'. So, let's open a Match EQ. I'll start from the top left where it says Analyzer, and then I will work my way around the parameters until I get to the other side. Are you ready to go on an adventure? I know I am. Okay, the Analyzer button simply brings up a frequency analyzer for you, so you can see it visually. The box below it lets you choose whether you want to see the frequency spectrum before or after processing. Pre is before processing, and post is after processing. And by processing, I mean before or after it has gone through the EQ plugin and been processed. Boom. Next up is the View menu. This can be quite handy if you want to start making comparisons between the different frequency spectrums. So when you choose Template, it shows you the spectrum of the audio you want to copy. If you choose Current Material, it shows you the spectrum of the audio that is on your track in Logic, and if you choose Filter, it shows you the filter curve, which is the final product of your EQ processing. If you select the automatic option, then it will automatically switch to the relevant window needed when using the Match EQ. The next box below that lets you choose if you want to see the frequency spectrum for the left and right channels separately, or whether you want to just see one frequency curve with the summed maximum level of both the left and right together. Notice as I'm clicking it on and off, a second frequency spectrum keeps toggling on and off. It is very similar to the other frequency spectrum, but just intricately different in parts. That's what makes things stereo. When the left and right speakers are not playing exactly the same thing out of them, in fact they are playing two slightly different versions of the same thing at the same time. But the left channel will be playing out slightly different information to the right channel. Right, that's enough stereo balls. Let's move on to the next section along. What this section does is, it highlights the selected channel's frequency spectrum. So if I select the left, then you will notice that the frequency spectrum for the left side has been highlighted more prominently than the right, so that it stands out a bit more and you can visually separate the left and right channels a bit better. If you select L and R, then they will both be highlighted together. The next section works in conjunction with this. The channel link slider basically lets you refine how much stereo processing you want to apply. So, when the slider is all the way up at 100%, there is a single EQ curve for both the left and right. But as we slide it down to the left, we notice another curve appear. So as the two different curves get more and more severely different from each other, it means that the information playing out of both the left and right speakers is becoming more and more different from each other. Now, if you try and use this function on a mono track, then this will not work. Because in a mono track the information is always going to be the same on both the left and right channels. That is what makes it mono. Hooray! Moving on, I will skip the next 3 buttons because we talked about them in part 1, but I will briefly share with you a great tip that I learned from a fella on YouTube called CallesDNB. If you right-click any of the first 2 boxes that analyze the data, then a menu pops up which lets you do a few things, one of which is quickly load up your audio sample directly. That's pretty magical. Thank you, Mr. Callis. Okay, let's talk about the smoothing slider now. This should be pretty obvious to see what this does. As I slide the slider up and down, it makes the filter curve smooth, and then harsh or general, and then intricate. What this is doing is smoothing out the transition that takes place as the frequency spectrum of our audio tries to copy that of what we asked it to. The final section I will talk about briefly is the phase section located here. This lets you choose whether or not the processing alters the signal phase or not. I can't hear an awful lot of difference in the two, however. I have been told that the linear mode has more latency than the other two modes. Just like the other EQs, you can adjust the curve manually with the mouse to get absolute perfection, and as you have the select section, don't forget that you can edit the left and right curves separately. So, we can say that this is quite an intricate plugin. I will show you one thing very quickly that I sometimes like to do with my vocal samples to bring them out a bit and clarify the bits that need more presence. Okay, so I have a vocal sample loaded up into Logic. I will now loop my vocal sample and click the template learn button. Let's do this now then.
Many of times I've told myself I'll hold you. Many of times I've told myself I'll hold you. Many of times I've told myself I'll hold you. Many of times I've told myself I'll hold you.
I left it for a while so that the plugin could get a nice reading of the frequency spectrum. Now let's click that Match Material button. Now, you might be thinking at this point, when are we going to copy the other audio spectrum? Well, we're not. For this example, all I am going to do is bring the apply slider down until the curve is ever so slightly inverted. Now, this doesn't work well on all vocals, but some of the time it just gives a really slight bit of extra clarity on your vocals and other sounds of a similar nature, so try it out. Lovely. That will be all for this video. If you want to learn about the sidechain feature, then look out for my section all about sidechaining and you will find what you seek over there. Thanks for watching. See you next time.